Hello Internet, I'm the Disney Brain and welcome to arguably the most important top video yet, the top 10 best Disney Channel original movies of all time. It's been a long and winding road, but we finally made it. Naturally, there's a lot to talk about, so let's get right into it. But first, I wanted to take a few moments to discuss 3 movies that just missed being an honorable mention, because I feel like I'll get asked about these films the most if I say nothing now. Cadet Kelly is a memorable, energetic, and all-around really good movie, anchored by arguably the best Hilary Duff performance of her career. The characters make sense, the plotting and pacing are really good, and the way Kelly as a character adapts to and eventually flourishes in her new environment is compelling. But it is just a bit overly predictable on the back third, and while that is nitpicking, there is no other feasible way to separate the best of the best DCOMs. Camp Rock, as some of you know, is probably my favorite DCOM personally, but having seen it more than any other DCOM, I can confidently say that while it's well constructed as far as a movie about music goes, and while its soundtrack is one of the best all time for DCOMs, it's not nearly as important, complex, or as ambitiously undertaken as most of the movies on this list. I'll always love it, but it would be short-sighted of me to think that there's not at least a handful of vastly superior movies. And finally, the original Xenon. This was a tough one because just like Cadet Kelly, you have an engaging narrative anchored by a likable leading lady, and on top of that, a genuinely clever villain scheme in this movie. But I think, again just nitpicking here, that it could have done a bit more with its future aesthetic. Plus, I really don't like Protozoa as a character, or as a musician, or the plot device he ends up being in the first 2 movies. All in all, these 3 movies, and much more, are very good, and I would even call some of them great, and they are all memorable for one reason or another. You can easily see how hard just picking honorable mentions were, let alone a top 10. So, make sure to share which movies you think are the best down below. With all that said, let's finally kick things off with number 10. Right on Track is one of those rare movies that understands details to such a degree that you'll wonder why more people haven't seen it. It's a brilliantly captured story of Erica and Courtney Enders, 2 sisters who take on the male-dominated sport of drag racing and blow past everyone, including the guys. But let's not oversimplify this to a tale about 2 female leads beating the odds, because it's so much more than that. Beverly Mitchell delivers an all-time powerful and captivating character performance as Erica Enders. I was so engrossed in her fiery dedication and resolve that works so well, right down to the smallest detail, that I found myself convinced that this must have been the original template for creating the character of Maddie Rooney, and that is exceptionally high praise coming from me. The way the actual racing elements present are filmed are also top-notch, mainly due to a great director. Dwayne Dunham is one of Disney Channel's greatest DCOM directors, and he proves it here by delivering an exceptionally authentic and well-designed racing aesthetic that pulls you into not just the look of drag racing, but the feel and the culture, and that's very important. I could talk for hours just about Beverly Mitchell and her bar-raising performance, but we've still got 9 movies to delve into. Needless to say, buckle up guys, it's only getting better from here. The Wizards movie wasn't just an exceptionally conceived movie in its own right, but it gains additional leverage from also being the best possible example of how to turn an original series into a DCOM. Its setting is captivating, its premise is interesting and novel, but still fits seamlessly into a world of witchcraft and wizardry, and it beautifully conveys a relatively untackled character dynamic between mother and daughter, while also doing a lot of interesting things with how Alex relates to family members that literally forget that they're related. But the movie also understands the spirit of wizards and keeps certain elements fun and lighthearted, just as those elements would play out on the show, and being serious when it has to be. Lev L. Spiro directs the heck out of this movie, and this guy really needs more DCOMs to work on. But at the end of the day, this movie is anchored by the best side of Alex Russo, the side of her that would go through extraordinary lengths to help out her family, and in doing so, develops her character in such an incredible way, the likes of which the show wouldn't have time to do in 22-minute segments. It's powerful, well-filmed, well-directed, well-thought-out, and of course, has just enough magic. Director Stuart Gillard's ideas and unique sense of style can produce a wide range of results, from solid to a little underwhelming or just flat-out horrifying, but Avalon High is a near-perfect movie that utilizes his skills to optimal levels. The King Arthur-related history is handled in the right way within the context of a narrative that hinges on finding his heir. The characters, especially Britt Robinson, all deliver memorable performances. The King Arthur iconography is used just enough and never overdone, and the plot twists absolutely put this movie on another realm. Now obviously I won't spoil what those twists actually are, but they work sensationally and make complete sense without being obvious. It would take an entire DCOM review to properly convey how many subtle things this movie does right, especially with how its narrative is intelligently and innovatively structured to almost intentionally make a lot of the teenage drama a secondary element that would take center stage in any other movie. But for now, understand that one of the most underrated DCOMs of all time is also one of the best of all time, and if you have yet to watch it, fix that. Surprising absolutely no one is a top 10 appearance by what has likely become the most popular DCOM of all time. And while there are an abundance of examples of why popularity doesn't always equate to quality, High School Musical simply isn't one of them. It delivers some of the best and most memorable high-powered tracks of any DCOM and does so with great choreography handled by the great Kenny Ortega. But there's also a larger point to all of this. The movie isn't just about finding yourself and accomplishing wonders, it's about subverting stereotypes in the process. How? Because in any other movie, Troy Bolton would just be a basketball player, but his character is handled with such great detail. His problems are often handled very much in his own headspace, and even before the movie begins, he's cool with everyone regardless of social circles, and never lets that inflate his ego. He's basically a role model for how captains of any team should act, which is why Troy is perfect for being part of the reason that East High eventually comes to realize that they are, in fact, all in this together. And unlike in Cheetah Girls 2, Kenny Ortega's more whimsical writing really works in this narrative predicated on musical elements. This movie does come with its own inherent flaws and leaps of logic, but that doesn't change how definitive this film is or how instrumental it was to many Disney Channel fans, myself included. In my most recent DCOM review, we took a closer look at what made Let It Shine one of the best DCOMs ever made. All of those reasons still hold, of course, but one of the main reasons why involves an exceptional understanding of how to properly convey an authentic and lived-in atmosphere for the story and characters to happen in, and that's arguably even more true for the next movie up. That attention to detail and the powerful character performances really deliver in this movie the way few DCOMs have been able to. Its music works, its message works, and the unique way Cyrus, otherwise known as Truth, functions as a character is one of the greatest uses of subtle plot devices ever conceived. This movie isn't just brilliant, it hardly has any noticeable down points or wasted scenes. Very few elements in this movie would have improved if they were changed, and even with that high praise, there are still 5 whole DCOMs that I would place ahead of it, who also rarely, if ever, make a mistake. For the record, it's not coincidence that 2 of Paul Hoen's best movies are right next to each other, because honestly, these 2 movies are exceptional for very similar reasons. Both Jump In and Let It Shine work exceptionally well by creating a genuine feeling environment from which the filming happens, which I would argue is done a little bit better in Jump In, because the score works better to emphasize the urban locale. But the best parts of Jump In are how it turned the very familiar story arc of main character is known for one thing but now loves something less traditional, and made the best possible character-driven narrative out of that basic premise. Izzy is being pushed and pulled between boxing and double dutch, but the pressure isn't really coming from his classmates that much because the movie barely shows the school. Instead, this movie intelligently focuses on his relationship with his father and how their relationship has changed since the mother of the family passed away. And all of this is beautifully complemented by another one of the strongest leading lady performances in a DCOM, courtesy of Keke Palmer as Mary, who is driven, focused, unrelenting, and is the perfect counter to the more overconfident Izzy, especially when she really needs to get in his face. Just like Let It Shine, it works perfectly as a character-driven movie, where all of the characters present have to evolve and grow in different ways to properly adjust to what's happening around them. And last but certainly not least, the Rodney factor and how his situation plays into his confrontations and eventual resolution with Izzy is pure magic that leaves you wishing that more recent DCOMs would create characters like him that are antagonists but compelling ones. This movie will definitely need the full DCOM review treatment in due time, but as great as this Director's Guild Award winner is, I don't think it's even Paul Hoen's best movie. Stay tuned for that. One of the smartest, best overall acted and captured, living, breathing metaphors in motion ever created. This isn't just one of the best DCOMs of all time, it's one of the most sensational. It took over the world for a time in 2011, and it deserved to. The way it effortlessly introduces us to, and then handles the arcs of 6 very different characters in the context of the movie, is something a lot of DCOMs couldn't get right with just 2 main characters, but this film makes it look easy. The music isn't just great, all of it has its place within the narrative structure, from simple beginnings to literally and figuratively breaking through to becoming a musical sensation. The acting and the character design is superb, especially the jobs done by Bridget Mendler and Hayley Kiyoko. The scenarios that the film present feel both authentic and meaningful, and the way the movie progresses through its narrative is spectacular. Lemonade Mouth, similar to many movies on this list, has little to no flaws within how it's designed, and the only thing holding it back is the simple fact that nobody would argue for its overall level of larger importance relative to how the movies just above it handled much more difficult topics. But even still, every facet of this movie delivers in the best possible way. Needless to say, that my DCOM review for it had to be 20 plus minutes for a reason, and my abridged description here doesn't quite do the movie justice. It didn't get a sequel, but it didn't need one, because it already accomplished everything it set out to do and more. The perfect character-driven, open and closed tale, and an absolute blast to watch every single time. This is one of those rare DCOMs that actually handles a world-changing tragedy better than some actual major motion pictures, and all of it has to do with the simplicity of its structure. Calling it simple in this context isn't an insult, but actually the best possible way a movie like this can operate. The film follows a literal tiger cruise as the kids and siblings of Navy members join them on an actual battleship. This gives them a chance to see their family members in action. The only kicker is that all of this is happening mere hours before the World Trade Center attack of September 11th. And the movie makes sure that you know what date everything is occurring on too, in a brilliant move of dramatic irony that allows the audience to view the character interactions from their own scope, as well as from the scope of a much larger event that they still don't know yet is coming. This movie was nothing if not incredibly bold. It came out in 2004, meaning that the minds behind this film needed to conceive of and approve of this idea at least 2 years after the September 11th tragedy had occurred, easily making it one of the most ambitious DCOMs ever made. And it works! Not just because of September 11th itself necessarily, but because of how the characters interact both before and after the event occurs. In moments of great struggle, we find our greatest strength, and even though the Tiger Cruise itself was far removed from any potential battle situations, the emotions are real at every turn. The characters flipping from jovial to heartbroken in unique ways all work because of the nuances of each character. This movie just might make you cry because of how well it captures the emotional downturns present throughout the ship. And in the end, they learn the most important lesson you can from an event like this, to cherish the people you have and not let relatively petty squabbles get in the way of that. This movie isn't playing around. Through the captivating, engrossing direction of Dwayne Dunham once again, we're treated to a movie unlike any before it or any after it. It's a one-of-a-kind DCOM that just needs to be watched. As far as I'm concerned, True Confessions is easily Paul Hogan's single greatest film, which says a lot about this movie already, since he's literally immune to making bad films. It's a captivating DCOM about an autistic boy named Eddie and his twin sister True, and the trials and tribulations of their particular living situation, all while True documents Eddie's life. The character portrayals in this movie really work, especially Shia LaBeouf as Eddie, who puts together a near-perfect performance, but also with True, played by Clara Bryant. I was initially annoyed by her character, but then I realized what this movie was trying to accomplish with her. It's realistic for her to be frustrated with her situation, a situation that places her seemingly lower on the child radar and keeps her from being able to reason with her brother or stave off those who offend him just because he's different. She is a very good sister, but her anger is somewhat justified, and her being able to convey both of those traits so well makes her character function well. But more than anything, what makes this movie transcend from just a film to pure artistic expression is beyond excellent camera work, editing, and score that details many of the movie's finer moments. I would easily call it the best shot movie in the history of DCOMs, and all it takes is one scene as an example. Remember when Eddie was in the library and he gets lost and calls out to True? He's being exceptionally loud in a place of quiet, and everyone not directly involved with Eddie is trying desperately to make him stop and get on with normalcy. It's the perfect scene, because it not only shows the love between a brother and a sister, but it also captures the hardships around them and how they'll work through those hardships together, regardless of what people think who don't understand them. Everything about that scene is flawless in a movie that doesn't make mistakes and where most of the important scenes are nothing short of poetry in motion. At this point, it would be irresponsible to spoil anything else if you haven't seen the movie yet, but trust me when I say, it'll be more than worth your time. But I don't think there's any DCOM in existence that can match number 1. What made the top spot? We'll get there. But first, some honorable mentions. Really? What else would it be? Of all the movies on this list, I had the hardest time coming up with just the right words to describe how awe-inspiring and transcendent this particular DCOM is. It's brilliant and ahead of its time in ways that no other DCOM nor show on the channel matches. The narrative focuses on two young girls named Piper and Mari, portrayed by Shadia Simmons and Lindsay Hahn respectively. Piper is a black girl who wants her family to partake in the exchange program that would bring an African to live with them in their home. The African they get is not exactly what they expected, and that's the whole point, to create a situation where racial barriers need to be broken in order to coincide. But that alone doesn't make the movie great. It's what they do with it, the lengths they go with it, and the brilliant way they capture the racial injustice happening in South Africa during the late 1970s when this movie takes place. It's primarily used as a background for the leads, since this isn't supposed to be a political drama, but the idea that racial intolerance exists gradually starts to resonate with Mari, and that's what carries the later stages of the film. But in between is a move so bold, so powerful, so fearless, that Disney Channel would sooner go off the air than do something similar today. They film Mari saying the N-word, and I shouldn't have to tell anyone why that's a big deal. But here's the smart thing. It's not utilized for cheap shock value. It actually serves the very important narrative function of allowing Piper to better understand the racial climate that Mari is dealing with, and how easily misunderstandings can occur when you live under different circumstances. It was at that point that the movie proved it wasn't afraid to go as far as it had to ascend from great to sublime. But it actually gets better. Because once things escalate to the international level, Mari literally breaks down in probably the greatest DCOM moment of pure anguish. She realizes a terrible truth, that as much as she's come to learn about racial injustice, as a kid, she feels powerless to do anything, even though she'll try. And in that singular moment, this movie went from the best DCOM I've ever seen, right up to one of the best straight-up movies I've ever experienced. Everybody in this film learns something important. Even the adults are allowed to develop as characters, which is rare in DCOMs, and the leading ladies don't just work off each other well, they nail their roles, especially Mari. This movie won a Humanitas Prize. Lindsay Hahn and Shadia Simmons won awards for their acting in this film. Kevin Hooks, the genius director behind this project, won a Directors Guild Award. It won NAACP Awards, Young Artist Awards, Writers Guild Awards, everything up and down the TV movie spectrum, and it deserved to win all of them and more. Here's an idea, Disney Channel. How about taking a break from giving us more wacky adventures or musicals and making a movie that isn't just good or fun or memorable, but impactful, powerful, meaningful? Every movie on this list is great, some truly exceptional, but this movie is nothing short of a masterpiece. And if you haven't experienced it yet, fix that. Fix that right now. It's number one for a good reason, so the list is done. I really hope you guys enjoyed this project that's been months in the making. This just might be the most important video I ever create because of how important DCOMs are, not just to Disney Channel, but to me. I originally started the Disney Brain because I wanted to discuss the topic of DCOMs with anyone willing to watch, and my DCOM reviews more than any other type of video are what I take the most pride in. I know there'll be plenty of debate as to what could have made the list or what should have made the list, and I look forward to hearing all of your respectful thoughts on that. This was more than just another video for me. This was a true passion project that took everything I had to create. So, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and throw it on a like, subscribe for more, and share the list with any fellow DCOM fans. And don't forget to follow the Disney Brain on Facebook and Twitter for updates, links down below. The coming days will bring part 2 of the Girl Meets Ski Logs review, and taking a closer look at Season 3 of Boy Meets World, and unfortunately counting down the top 5 worst DCOMs ever made. I pretty much already know which 5 movies those will be, so that video might even come sooner than expected. Either way, lots to look forward to. Until then...